Hey guys, it's James.Fluellen with another episode of the Success Agent Podcast, where we interview top team leaders, broker owners, business owners, influencers, and just overall cool people. And today we have Khek Teh, one of the founders of Fieldnotes AI, the CRM that has lots of automation. And he is out of Bellevue, Washington, and he's going to this is going to be a good episode because I'm super excited. I've known Khek now for a couple years now.
Yep.
And so we're going to do some deep dive into CRM technology, artificial intelligence, and just the future of the CRM. So Khek, tell us a little bit about why you started Field Notes, and a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then we're going to dive into some really fun content today, and I hope our audience is going to really enjoy this.
Okay. Okay. I'm looking forward to it, JP. With you, I always get a chuckle and a laugh out of you too. So my name is Khek Teh. I'm one of the co-founders of Fieldnotes AI. We are a software company, as JP mentioned, out of Bellevue, Washington, which, for those who don't know, it's Seattle. Is the metropolitan city. In terms of like how we found Field Notes, it was really born. First of all, I've worked in several startups. This is probably my third startup already. And the previous startup, we went IPO, which was really fun. It was super exciting. And then so I decided, you know what, I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm going to build it from the ground up. What's really the challenge and the problem that we were facing in my previous couple of jobs as well too was that we were using the CRM. And I was responsible for customer success and account management. And so one of the things that I always had to get my team to use the CRM, and I felt like the CRM was just cumbersome. You name the CRM, I'll tell you the pains with each one of them, right? And so I realized, you know what, there's got to be a way better way in doing that. So Joy, my partner, back then he was a data scientist at Microsoft, and said, let's do something cool together. And I said, how about this? The whole concept of reinventing the CRM. How can we make a CRM that's simple and easy to use? So we came up with the idea of Field Notes and an AI that's using voice to text. You can take pictures, all of that to update your CRM without ever having to log in. So that was the genesis of Field Notes.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the big pain points for a lot of real estate agents is that they are either in the field too much or they're in their CRM too much.
Yes.
And so as we've, and one of the things, let's just a caveat here, we use Field Notes. So I have first person interaction with Khek's system. And I will tell you that it's definitely something that's different that I was not accustomed to, which was the letting the automation do its thing and try not to be too much hands-on, because the system actually talks to you, which was very interesting. A lot of my agents on our team were kind of freaking out that their CRM was texting them. And reminding them to do things and make sure that they interact with the system on a daily basis. And so that was really cool. So all right, so AI, let's jump into that, because I think that's probably one of the things that our audience is probably the most curious about. So explain to us what, from an artificial intelligence standpoint, one is, where do you think the industry is going? And then two, how does that work into the real estate space?
So with AI, a lot of companies out there are focused on big data and analytics, getting insights, and kind of doing those type of algorithms there, right? And that's been going on for past 15, 20 plus years already. So that's been ongoing for a longest time. What has been like the underlying for a past uh, more of a trend within the past 10 years, I would say, is the whole technology of AI called natural language processing. That's what we're into. And you will see, like, with Alexa, with from Amazon, you've got Siri and you got Google Voice as well too, right? Or Google Assistant, sorry. And all of those are starting to kind of come out, and a lot of these companies are building these AI technologies, and that's been like really changing the way that we start interacting with software. And I think that's the trend. And the cool thing about this is that we're really reinventing the way with the technology that with AI is that we can teach the computer to understand how we operate instead of us having to be hands on keyboard to type on things and telling the computer what to do. So now, with like, let's say Google Voice or Google Assistant, sorry, with Google Assistant, you can order pizza or call to make an appointment at a hair salon, for example, right? I saw an example of that about a year ago, and I thought that was pretty cool. Now, what we're doing is that we're trying to make it very business specific, and that's where it's pretty cutting edge of what we're doing right now, is that we're focused on real estate only. And so we're using the AI to be able to be your sales assistant, right? Sort of, and the way you talk to it, you don't have to kind of, you can talk as if you're talking to your assistant, and then it will obey your commands, understand what you're doing. We'll even talk to leads as well too. And that's the cool thing about this. And so natural language processing is a new branch of AI that has been going on for years, but you'll see a much more explosion that's coming out in the coming years as well too.
So the cool part about it is, so what you're saying is essentially that you're able to have a virtual assistant that's literally virtual, not that's overseas.
I never thought of it that way. That's true. That is true. Yeah, we can think of having a virtual assistant that's not overseas, that's like bits and bytes, so to speak, that's working for you pretty much 7 by 24, and never gets a holiday, um, and all for a fraction of the cost too. So, I mean, and you've been using it for the past couple of years. What's your impression? Has it been helpful for you to, when you're out on the road, when you're out visiting clients? You know, it's been pretty, I would say, it's been used by, I've seen a lot of usage by your agents as well too, to kind of like help out when they're out on the road and updating their contacts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The quickest help for us is the ability to upload your contracts, and the AI reads your contract and
Yeah,
updates your calendar, which is just ridiculous.
yeah,
And it's awesome because one of the biggest pain points for agents is the non-income producing activities, and one of them is data entry. And so this automates all of that, and then the AI will actually interact back with you and says, "Hey, we've just updated your CRM." And not only does it update it, but it's so accurate that you don't have to go back and worry that the information isn't in there correctly. Because what I found is a lot of startups have these headaches of inaccurate data. And then it just, instead of solving a problem, it just creates a new one. And I'm like, well, I didn't have that problem before. And so now that I'm on this system, now it's created a new problem for me. And that's what we want to try to avoid in this process too. And especially with newer agents, where they may not be able to afford an assistant, or they may not have the resources or the location, especially when with a lot of agents working from home, they may have just a smaller office space, and they don't have the ability to do the oversight of an additional staff member. And so by having someone that's literally a robot in your phone that can do all of this work for you is so much easier and so much less stressful, and not having to go back and say, "Hey, did you do that?" And it's like, well, did you initiate it as the agent? Yes or no? And then you're
yeah.
done. And that's what's really cool about it too. And you know, the AI, there's two AIs actually. There's Sparky and Annette,
Okay.
and so Sparky will actually like remind you over the weekend, "Hey, how'd you have a good weekend?" "Absolutely, Sparky, I had a great weekend." excellent. Send me your contacts and we'll get things rolling. Do you want to start a drip campaign? And you literally just initiate the drip campaign from a text message, which is awesome because a lot of agents are not techie. And
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest issues that we see a lot because, the average age of a real estate agent is like 65 and female. And so, obviously that does not, focus in on the tech sector of things.
yeah,
And so you're able to just talk with natural language, like you were saying, and Sparky will interact with you and do the things you ask it to. Imagine that, with actually no reminding or, a to-do list or whatever. It's you just do the thing and then it does it. So that's cool. That's one of the things that we really enjoy about using the system.
yeah. No, one thing is that it's sure it's like it's mind blowing when the first time you're using this, you people are so used to kind of like it feels like we're in the matrix kind of thing, right? We get plugged in, here's the keyboard, start typing away and all that. And so people have to get used to it. It's like, no, you don't have to log into the system. You just talk, like you do a text to Sparky and or send your contracts, like you said, the purchase sales agreement, and you send it in, and like you would to your assistant. You send your data, like your Excel files or your contact, the sign up forms or whatever you have, like you would to your assistant, and send it to Sparky, and it'll automatically process it for you, right? Like you would with your assistant. It's exactly how we've built Sparky to kind of do that. That's the coolest part. It takes some getting used to, and we're trying to help like the newer agents, as well as the experienced agents, for sure. But the newer agents, like who can't, like you said, afford to, who can't afford to really have to pay for a real time assistant. This is the best alternative out there, right? And for teams that do have assistants, we've helped a lot of teams where they have an assistant, but instead of having the assistant paying them 15, $20 an hour, right, or even $25 an hour of doing data entry, why not use it to be able to use the assistants to free them up from the manual data entry and use them to do marketing, calling clients as well too, right? And that's the real benefit of using Sparky and Field Notes for it.
Yeah, and one of the major pain points for most agents is the follow-up piece. And that's the part where, most of your money is made on the between the 12th and the 15th interaction with a client, and you can set that on autopilot with field notes, and it allows the AI to interact as if it's your literal assistant sending out emails and sending out text messages, and the system does that for you. And then when it triggers a live one, it's kind of like you're out there, doing some, fishing and you're not in the boat, and
Yeah,
then the fisherman calls you and says, "Hey, we got one," and then it sends it to you and does the handoff process, and which is awesome because, again, a lot of agents can't afford, a ISA or, a virtual, ISA to do this type of work for you, and the system does it. And so, and you can integrate all the tools, all the things that everybody's using. You can integrate all that stuff into Field Notes and have, your virtual assistant doing all that work for you, which is, again, a cost savings long term. It's all integrated into a CRM. There's a lead gen part of it too, where you can add in, Facebook ads and Google ads and, YouTube ads and all that stuff and have it all fed into your system too. So,
yeah,
um, it's such a great solution that I think for a lot of people that are looking for just something different, that actually works. Um, and as real estate agents progress, of course, we all get creative in the things we want to do. And the great thing about the team over at Field Notes and Keck, especially, and his crew, we've tried to break the system, and they continue to make improvements for us because that's, what realtors do is, we get content and we want something new and shiny.
It's all good, man. I mean, honestly, it's definitely been a journey, and the partnership that we've had, and I I don't know if I ever told you this. My mom, part of Field Notes and the inspiration for why we're focusing on real estate is because my mom used to be a real estate agent herself.
Okay. No, I haven't heard this story.
Okay, so when we came up, we were actually first doing this and building this Field Notes really for companies, right? Enterprise and working with different companies and so forth. But then, as I was sharing it with my mom about the idea that we have and having coffee, or in this case, we're having tea actually, and so sharing the whole story, the whole concept of what Field Notes is about, and she said you should really try this within real estate because that's where you know the need is. And I said, really? Is it big enough? Is this a big enough need for it? And she said, remember me? And so it's like, I remember growing up in the days where, you're running back and forth, with meetings and with client meetings saying, hey, we're about to go out for dinner. Client calls and says, hey, can I take a look at this house? Or I'm in this area. Can you show me this, and this house? And so that kind of like frantic and unpredictable schedule makes it super hard and chaotic for an agent, let alone the family as well too. And I remember sticky sticky notes of like of numbers, names, to dos, all over the desk. Um, the worst case was when you have like the lunch bag of like the McDonald's like takeout bag with like scribbles on it.
Oh yeah, been there, done that one.
um, and this is where it's like one time in high school, she took one of my homework thinking that it was it was like a scrap paper, and she started writing all over that. So this is, she says, we need something. Agents need something to organize their lives a little bit better. So that's the genesis of
That's
you know
awesome.
focus on real estate.
Well, it's so practical. What's cool too is if you write neat enough, you can take a picture of your handwritten note and Field Notes will read that and stick it in your CRM too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
Thanks, thanks, man. Yeah, no, it is been a work of passion for the past 5 years, man.
Well, we're gonna continue to help you move it forward and keep continuing to break your system, dude. So, um,
Bring it.
yeah, I just saw that you guys are a preferred partner with Zillow now on the preferred list of integration for that. So we'll probably have to talk offline on how we can, with our lead day and then the integration when the leads come in. I actually have a meeting with their um, director of what is it, integration systems or something like that at Zillow here, I think next week. So
Okay,
he's gonna teach me how that all like talks to the system, I guess.
okay, okay.
So
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
yeah. So I don't know what else we got, man. What else you want to give our audience?
Well, I guess like, why don't we talk a little bit about like Annette and the
Yeah.
AI? So we've been talking about Sparky too, and I'm kind of curious, and maybe if you can kind of tee it up and share, because you're also using Annette as well too, right? And maybe if
Yes.
you can give your firsthand experience, and I can explain the technology and the process of how we do this too.
Yeah. So I guess from a practical standpoint, as being the agent, so the constant routine with an agent and their CRM is you finally get a time to sit down and you're starting to go through your leads and you have your calls, you're doing your calls, you got your hour of power or whatever you want to call it, or like we have lead day, so we have all of our agents dedicate one full 8-hour day to just doing all their phone calls and making sure that they're doing their notes and all that stuff in the CRM. Well, what's cool is you can literally like you're in your CRM and you made your phone call, nobody answers. You send an email, nobody answers. And then you're like, well, what's next? Well, rather than just hitting save and going on to the next one, you can literally send that contact to Annette, and Annette is the AI that will interact via email, which I know is now we're pivoting into a few other avenues of communication, and and then Annette will start the follow up process again, and till basically, basically until they buy or die. And so, and as soon as they get to that point where it's, time to hand them off, because now they're an active buyer or seller, you can actually put a note in there to Annette. Hey, spoke with this contact. This is a buyer or this is a seller. And then, of course, you got to make sure that all of your other data points within that contact are also accurate, because Annette can read the contact file. And then Annette will just start following up, and she'll actually put notes in your CRM, which is so cool. You can just see like Annette's having this conversation with the client, but they're not quite ready. And, you can see all the different days that Annette has reached out and stuff. And which is just cool, because you're starting to think of Annette as a real person now. And then, you're like, hey, well, we got some people that are single on our team. She may want to hang out with Annette this weekend,
It's not the first time Inez got an offer.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Um,
So,
so
and that's one of the other pain points as a real estate agent is, we do that one interaction every, when we remember, and we're not scheduled around that.
yeah,
And so, that's really cool. And then, and so just by having Annette do that backup follow-up plan, it's just one other avenue that we're able to get out there and get in contact with a client that or a lead that we didn't actually have any interactions with. And so, and again, all part of the system. You're not paying an additional staff member, so you literally get 2 more staff members with included in Fieldnotes that you don't have to pay an additional hourly wages for. Because everybody's like, well, do you have a VA? And I'm like, well, if you get all these VAs, even though there might be $3 or $4 an hour, you add that up, that gets pretty pricey, especially if you're just trying to get your business going off the ground.
yeah,
And so that was one of the pieces that we really enjoyed about it. And the more you use it, the smarter they get. And so, because as we go back to big data, that's the king of this whole process, is the more you interact with it, the more smarter it gets. Just like if you're using Siri, and the more you talk to Siri, the more Siri understands, oh, your THs are not that enunciated, like, it's like, oh, they have this weird like little side lisp. Oh, okay, that's how we're gonna have to figure out what words they're using. And so again, it comes back to the more you use it, the smarter it gets, and that's that machine learning. That's
yeah,
part of the natural language process. So
yeah. No, I think I have to give you credit, man, for your team doing what you guys were one of the first teams that start using like reassigning those like leads that your team cannot connect with back to Annette, the AI, to kind of follow up with them. So let me kind of give the audience some context of Annette. So basically, um, Annette is the same AI platform that is following up with your leads, and so internally, Sparky's your assistant to kind of help organize your database and so forth. But it's essentially the same AI platform, but instead of you don't want Sparky to reach out to your leads, so we customize it so that you can kind of rename the AI and call it Annette. Some people call it Maria, whatever name you want as well too. And the latest one is Frederick. That people get creative with their naming their AI.
nice.
But so if the AI is reaching out to your leads, it does so by texting, email, for a majority of the times, and then there's a portion of people that don't respond to texting or email, and usually they're the older folks, and that just don't respond, and that's like probably about 10% of the population, right? And we actually, the AI flags it and assigns it to a live agent about 10% of the time to follow up. And that's where sometimes you hear them calling as well too. And the coolest thing, and here's a pop quiz. On average, how many times do you think it takes for a lead to respond? How many attempts do you have to do before a lead responds to you?
Between 9 and 15.
Wow, not that high. On
No?
average, no,
Really?
no, yeah. On average, it's like 7 to 8 times. But I
Okay.
have some leads taking as much as 11 to 12 times to respond. Um, okay, another factoid. On average, though, according to NAR, right? Agents 95% of agents follow up only 2 times.
Oh, that's a fact. I know that. Yeah.
That's so you see that gap, right? Agents follow up 1 to 2 times, and this is a tip for all agents, right? Whether you use any use field notes or any system, always be following up, because if you don't, on average it takes 7 to 8 times, and most agents are doing 2 times a follow up. Such a huge gap. Annette follows up at least minimally 16 times.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's crazy, right? And so what we want to know, and what we want to know from a lead is, I tell us, yes, I'm interested, or get lost. Simple. We don't want. I mean, you don't want to be spending your marketing dollars and it just goes to a black hole where nobody's responding to you. So that's where the AI is like awesome at doing this. It will just continue to kind of follow up with them, and consistently follow up with them until they say, "Go away, I'm not interested," or "Check back with me," but that's still an interest, right? And so the system will follow up with them a couple of months from now. If they say 6 months, it'll actually reach out to them 5 months from now. And that's the cool thing, the consistent follow up and nurturing and following up and qualifying as well too. And that's where I think you're seeing success with your teams, is because I see them assigning it to a net, and then it's like qualifying and then giving it back to the agent too.
Yeah. And then what's also so cool about it too is it's fully customizable. Like if you call your lead something else other than a hot lead, you can rename it as something else.
Yeah.
And you can, if it's not a nurture, or if you're used to using a different CRM and you're just kind of used to a different categories of things, you can fully customize all of that stuff. And you can go so much further. You can create groups. You can create your like a VIP group of your past clients, and you can group them in a little a way that you follow up with just your VIP folks. Or if you have you can put in their anniversaries. You can get super granular with just different ways that you want to reach out to your clients. And it's not techie. Like you don't have to know like a hashtag and some like trigger thing in order to make sure that the system understands what you're doing. The whole system is the way that you and I would interact with something.
Yeah.
And what's cool is, Keck and his team are constantly rolling out new products and features, which is awesome, because one of the things I found with a lot of CRMs out there is they're kind of just a set it and forget it, and they may do a new rollout once a year, and usually it's not something very impactful, because a lot of times these guys are not real estate agents, nor do they interact as often with their actual client base. And what's cool is I interact with Keck probably once or twice a week, probably.
Yeah. If not you, I'm talking to Sherry too. At
I mean,
least.
at some point, you're gonna have to hire somebody for that role. I hope not, but as you guys grow and scale, the one thing that you know, with startups and businesses is that don't lose that touch, that personal touch with doing business, because I feel like a lot of times, big business, you're either talking to that chat bot, or you go into a video library to learn how to do things, and sometimes it's like that still doesn't solve my question, and I'm like, Keck, dude, I need help with this situation. He's like, oh, yeah, 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 that's an easy fix. Let me show you. And then we'll hop on a Zoom call and he walks me through it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know what? Um, You bring up, actually remind me of a really good point. One of the things that we take pride, and this is our mantra within our company, we believe that, the whole idea of Field Notes is to give you back time to focus on building better relationships, right? You want, sometimes we, as agents, you're so busy running around from one meeting to another meeting and trying to get, call as many leads as much as possible. And that doesn't give you time to really chat with someone and have a conversation just like we are right now, right? And build a relationship. So when we do our onboarding, we do our support. Sure, we've got the knowledge base. Yes, we've got the training videos, but what we still take pride is we want to personally onboard you and help you get to know the system, show you the features. How does it, how does it align to the way you do your business? And that's what we still do to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great way to wrap up today. Thank you again for being here, man. I know it's early over there right now. And so if somebody wants to reach out to you and say, thank you for doing this podcast, how can they get a hold of you? And then I think you have a special discount code for the audience. If they really want to jump on board with Field Notes and be like, this is the solution I've been looking for. So how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So if they are interested, check it out. Go to fieldnotes.ai. So which is spelled FIELDNOTES.ai. Field Notes. If you go to fieldnotes.com, you'll be buying a notepad instead. So make sure it's .ai and sign up for a demo. And and if you mention Fluellen out of this, you will get an additional 10% discount.
That's huge. That's huge. You guys should really take full advantage of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So is that the
Okay.
best way? Do you want anybody reaching out to you via email or anything like that?
You can always reach out to me. My email is Khek, which is KHEK at fieldnotes.ai as well too. So send me emails if you have any more questions, if you want to learn more about Field Notes, or even if you want to just talk about ideas of how you should be reaching out with leads in general. I'm happy to help out and kind of answer any questions that you may have too.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of the Success Agent Podcast. And if you guys want to reach out to me, I'm on Google. Just Google J.P.Fluellen. Awesome.
Awesome.
We'll
Take
catch you
care,
guys
man.
on the next episode.